Lid down there, rest in peace, Vale. This used to be the cut though. They got his brains beat in that motherfucker. This is one of the worst parks in Albany Park.
Breaking right now, a 63-year-old man is in critical condition, shot tonight on the city's northwest side.
To share with you that happened overnight. A man is seriously hurt after he was stabbed in the neck early this morning. Now, the person accused in this stabbing has been arrested.
Intersection of Addison Street. A man was driving when he was shot by someone in a silver sedan. You see the scene here. This happening near Albany and Addison around 10:30 last night.
One man is dead and another fighting for his life after being stabbed inside of an Avondale apartment.
North Albany Park Avenue and Strong Street, picking up close to a dozen shell casings.
Northside have long histories of gang activity tied to shifting demographics and racial tensions.
Well, we'll see.
In the 1960s
Hopefully this doesn't happen anymore.
White gangs like the Gaylords and Simon City Royals clashed with newly arriving Puerto Rican and Mexican groups. Over time, gangs like the Maniac Latin Disciples, Latin Kings, Spanish Gangster Disciples, and Spanish Cobras took root, fueling decades of violence, shootings, and drug trade that reshaped both communities.
Newly released video shows people in a running gun battle that left one innocent bystander injured. This happened in the Albany Park neighborhood early in the evening of September 16th near Belmont and Central Park. The victim was hit while trying to get away with family members from all the shooting. If you recognize any of these men or happen to know their whereabouts, Chicago police want to hear from you. Area 5 detectives are handling the investigation.
Chicago police evidence technicians at the corner of North Harding Avenue and Strong Street picking up close to a dozen shell casings scattered across the pavement. News Affairs reporting that two unknown offenders walked up to a 16-year-old female and a 16-year-old male companion in the alleyway just before 10 o'clock this morning, abruptly opening fire. One of the 16-year-olds suffering a gunshot wound to her right shoulder. Her 16-year-old companion was uninjured as the gunman fled on foot. The brazen morning shooting steps away from nearby Volta Elementary.
To you both tonight, police are still trying to figure out exactly what happened this morning. And they also want to know how the car involved in that shooting ended up at that 7-Eleven just a few blocks away.
Now, police are telling us a 37-year-old man was sitting in his car on North Hamlin Avenue near Montrose. A person then in another vehicle approached him and then started shooting at him. The victim was shot in the chest and tried to drive away, but he hit several parked cars, and that's when his car flipped over.
Breaking right now, a 63-year-old man is in critical condition, shot tonight on the city's northwest side. A 45-year-old man also hit. He's in fair condition. Police tell us both men are hospitalized.
Chicago police say a 50-year-old man was arguing with that suspect near Montrose and Drake in Albany Park. This was around 1 o'clock this morning. That's when the suspect pulled out a knife. The victim.
Albany Park, once a quiet neighborhood, saw its first major gang activity in the 1960s when the insane Popes moved into the North Mayfair area. By the mid-1970s, the area became a battleground involving white gangs like the Simon City Royals, Gaylords, and Chi West, clashing with incoming Puerto Rican groups like the Latin Kings, Puerto Rican Stones, and Future Stones. The Simon City Royals quickly became the dominant force, claiming multiple corners throughout the area. In the 1980s, Hispanic migration surged, and the gang landscape shifted. The Spanish Gangster Disciples and Spanish Cobras arrived and grew rapidly, taking over large clusters of territory. Meanwhile, white gangs like the Gaylords and Popes began to lose turf or leave altogether. The 1990s brought further change with the rise of the Familia Stones formed from the Future Stones and a resurgence of Latin King influence. Newcomers like 2-6, Gangster Disciples, Satan Disciples, and conservative vice lords added to the already crowded gang scene, making the 1990s the most gang-saturated decade in Albany Park history. Into the 2000s, many smaller gangs left or were absorbed as gentrification pushed out longtime residents. In a devastating case that shook Chicago's Albany Park neighborhood, Jovan Jurgelov, known by the gang name Yogi, was found guilty of deletion and arson for setting a fire in 2009 with the demise of Rosanna Ocampo and her 7-year-old daughter, Itzel Fernandez. The motive behind the attack was gang retaliation, as tensions between the Spanish Cobras and their rivals, the Spanish gangster disciples, reached deadly levels. Prosecutors said Georgelov, a member of the Spanish Cobras, set fire to a building on January 31, 2009, in an act of revenge after he believed the Spanish gangster disciple had thrown a brick through his window. But instead of hitting his intended targets, the flames engulfed the 3-flat building, with the demise of Ocampo, who was pregnant, and her daughter as they slept. The tragedy highlighted the indiscriminate violence that gang wars inflict on innocent families caught in the crossfire. The trial featured testimony from multiple gang members, many of whom were reluctant to speak due to the street code against snitching. Michael Santiago, another Spanish Cobra, testified that Georgelov arrived at his home on the night of the fire reeking of gasoline and admitted to setting the blaze. However, Santiago initially lied to investigators out of fear for his safety, a point defense attorneys seized upon to question the credibility of the witnesses. Adding further complication to the case, another Spanish Cobra named Franco Avila, who was suspected of involvement in the arson, met his demise shortly after the fire, possibly in gang retaliation. Despite the conflicting witness accounts and gang loyalties muddying the investigation, the jury deliberated for 4 hours before convicting Georgelov on all charges. In a major federal sting dubbed Operation Bullpen, 11 members of the La Familia Stones gang were charged with operating a drug delivery service across Chicago's Albany Park neighborhood. The operation allegedly ran from December 2021 to November 2022, using a hotline system where customers ordered drugs that were then delivered to their doors. Despite growing suspicion among the group that they were under surveillance, the drug ring continued operations. Undercover D agents and Chicago police made over 50 drug buys. The investigation led to multiple arrests, seizure of firearms, and hundreds of grams of narcotics. At the center of the operation were Freddie Del Toro and another defendant, who allegedly coordinated deliveries and directed others via tapped phone lines. Even as wiretap conversations revealed concerns that some crew members might be cooperating with police, the operation pressed on. Del Toro was already in jail on a separate deletion charge, and a search of his home turned up drugs, cash, and firearms.
Making news, he got his life back when he was finally released from prison after being wrongly convicted of murder. But now this man, Thaddeus Jimenez, is back behind bars. Prosecutors say when he got his freedom, he turned to the gang life. This is Thaddeus Jimenez in 2015 driving his brand new Mercedes, just one of the perks of his newfound freedom. At the age of 13, he was wrongly sent to prison for murder. He was released in 2009 and won a $25 million judgment against the city. But prosecutors say Jimenez couldn't shake the streets and used his millions to build his gang.
Y'all don't understand, we are the police over here. We are the law enforcement. We are the rule government in our own communities. Self-sovereign, true royalty. Nobody above us.
They say Jimenez admitted to this 2015 shooting while pleading guilty to a gun charge.
Thaddeus T.J. Jimenez was associated with the Simon City Royals, a Chicago-based street gang. The Simon City Royals are known for their involvement in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking and violent crimes. Jimenez's gang involvement played a significant role in his life, both before and after his wrongful conviction. Thaddeus T.J. Jimenez, a Chicago native, was wrongfully convicted of murder at the age of 13. In 1993, he was accused of shooting 19-year-old Eric Morrow in the chest. Despite evidence pointing to another suspect, Juan Carlos Torres, Jimenez was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in prison. His conviction was based on the testimony of witnesses who later recanted their statements. Jimenez spent over 16 years in prison before being exonerated and released in 2009. After his release, Jimenez was awarded $25 million in a federal wrongful conviction lawsuit against the city of Chicago. However, his post-exoneration life took a downturn. In 2015, he was involved in gang activities and shot an acquaintance in the legs, which led to his arrest and a subsequent prison sentence. Jimenez's case is a stark example of the systemic issues within the criminal justice system, including wrongful convictions based on faulty eyewitness testimony and inadequate defense.
Overnight, one man is dead and another fighting for his life after being stabbed inside of an Avondale apartment.
Intersection of Addison Street. A man was driving when he was shot by someone in a silver sedan. You see the scene here. This happening near Albany and Addison around 10:30 last night. We are told the man is in critical condition after he was shot twice.
And a breaking news update. Chicago police are searching for the person who attacked 3 people in the Avondale neighborhood.
It happened on North Pulaski at a restaurant called Las Islas Marias.
Our top story this half hour, the medical examiner's office has identified a man and woman whose bodies were found overnight in an apartment in Avondale.
They're telling us they responded to the scene after a well-being check was called in around 9:15 near the corner of Central Park Avenue and School Street. Attendant told officers they were concerned about their neighbors.
Avondale, once known as Polish Village due to its strong Polish and Eastern European community in the early 20th century, remained relatively safe through the 1950s and 60s. The first gang presence came around 1960 when the Northside and St. Popes briefly settled at Bryn Mawr before relocating. By the early 1970s, racial tensions in nearby Logan Square spilled into Avondale as Puerto Rican migration increased. White gangs like the Simon City Royals and Gaylords emerged to protect the neighborhood. As Hispanic families moved into Avondale, they faced violence from white gangs, prompting the maniac Latin disciples to establish themselves at Kedzie and Barry in 1978, becoming the first Hispanic gang in the area. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, gang activity intensified as more Hispanic gangs, including the Spanish Lords, Spanish Cobras, and Latin Kings, moved in. Despite the violence, Avondale never became one of Chicago's most dangerous neighborhoods. In 2011, the Chicago Police Department launched an aggressive campaign against the maniac Latin Disciples gang after a high-profile shooting and the uncovering of prostitute ring tied to its members. The tipping point came on June 8th when Antonio Bucio, an alleged maniac Latin Disciples member, opened fire at Avondale Park in an attempt to target rival Latin Kings. Instead, his bullet struck 2 innocent girls ages 2 and 7 who were playing in a sandbox. The younger child was grazed in the head, while the 7-year-old suffered a critical back wound. Bucio was arrested, charged with aggravated battery with a firearm, and held without bond. He later pleaded guilty to attempted deletion and received a 30-year prison sentence. The fallout didn't stop with the shooting. In the months that followed, police intensified their operations against the gang. By October, more than 670 arrests had been made. Investigators also uncovered a 2-year prostitute operation allegedly run by Antonio's brother, Michael Bucio, another MLD member. Michael was arrested and charged with felony counts of promoting prostitution and operating a brothel. He allegedly managed 2 properties on West Lawrence Avenue and West 55th Street where women aged 18 to 30 were forced to work. Police said he and several other gang members passed out disguised business cards at malls and flea markets to attract customers. The cards featured images of women posing as teachers or professionals to avoid detection by spouses. The BMS set, located on Bryn Mawr and Spaulding, represents a branch of the almighty Simon City Royals. BMS has been active since the 1990s in the Albany Park neighborhood, frequently clashing with rival groups such as the Latin Kings and Spanish Gangster Disciples. BS or 5200 is a party player set based around Balmoral and Spaulding, involved in regional conflicts and linked to ongoing rivalries, particularly with surrounding GD and Royals.
When the Chevy windows stop pulling out pistols, this post with J, rock your ass, no side central. And 50 rounds will do more than give your mouth dimples. It will put a hole in your ass, make a loud whistle. I pistol whip you, make you swallow your chin, leave you with more lumps than a bottle.
The LA set is held down by the insane Spanish Cobras in Albany Park. The Cobras' presence began in the mid-1990s and has remained strong, especially in conflicts with nearby Simon City Royals and black mobs. The DA, based at Drake and Ainsley, is a set founded in 1993 by the Spanish gangster disciples on Broadway and Kyler. Their entry into Albany Park was facilitated by the original GDs of St. Louis and Ainsley, and they have maintained a long-standing presence in the neighborhood since. The Kedzie 4800 Latin Kings set is based at Lawrence and Kedzie. It is known for high levels of violence and gang activity, particularly involving Latin Kings in the area.
Yo, you know how we coming, man? Try to always go get some money, man. Niggas be broke. Central Park and Leland.
You know what time it is. CPS.
CPL, Savage, and Ville. It's just a park. We had them this summer. Every race in the world around this month. Ain't no nigga on the north side with me on the music. Been in this neighborhood 30 years. God damn it. Danny, what's up? Hey, tell them how long you knew me.
30 years?
Man.
We made this motherfucker famous.
We didn't own property around this motherfucker. Like, we own property around this bitch. Like, you know?
Tay Sav from PPG, like, basically posting you about, like, some snitching shit. What was that about?
He chasing niggas hating they see a motherfucker buzzing.
I made like 100 on this block, man. This little shit.
This building right here, this was the 24 building right here. I done passed a lot of niggas, won a lot of money in this hallway, man. This Drake right here. I got hit by a car right here. Where you standing at?
Long live zero, man. Zero to riches, man. If you know, you know. Free DK, free LJ, free Birdo, free all the guys.
Long live Nunu, long live Ville. Rest in peace, Nucci. He lived right here at like the last apartment. Ville lived down there. You know, rest in peace, Ville. This used to be the cut though. Nigga got his brains beat in that motherfucker. This is one of the worst parks in Albany Park.
Known as Ville Gang or Savage Mob, this Vice Lord and Four Corner Hustler set is centered around Central Park and Leland in the 4700 block. Prominent rapper Zay Tiggy is associated with this group. CPW is a historic Simon City Royals block active since the 1970s. This LA set at Lawndale and Agatite is another Simon City Royals faction in Albany Park. Established in the mid to late 1990s, LA has played a prominent role in area conflicts. Rapper Royal Chop is affiliated with this set. MontroseMoneyGang represents the Royals based around Montrose and St. Louis. Their influence spans parts of Albany Park and adjacent zones. Kedzie City or KC is a Simon City Royal set at Kimball and Cullom. Established in summer 1995, KC replaced the Spanish Cobras, who previously controlled the area, until losing the turf war in the early 1990s. IB or 3400 is a Simon City Royals set located at Irving Park and Bernard. This set remains active in Albany Park with a presence in music and social media. MB is based at Montrose and Bernard. It is one of the more violent Spanish gangster disciple-affiliated blocks in the neighborhood. SK, located at Sunnyside and Kimball, was originally in Spanish gangster disciple territory from 88 and Houston. It has since shifted allegiance and now represents gangster disciples. Rapper Glizzy is from this set. MHG, also known as No Love, is based at Kimball and Cullom. Known as the most hated gang, this set remains a staple of conflict in Albany Park. Kimball and Belle Plaine KB, or 3400, is held down by the almighty Ambrose. Initially opened in 1997 by the Ambrose from 18th and through, the block was revived in 2010 and has since remained active. DKville or Fintown is a familiar Stones hood located around Montrose and Whipple. It includes several smaller subsets operating across the block. Graceland AG is held down by members of a mixed alliance operating at Albany and Grace. Their composition includes Maniac Latin Disciples and affiliated Latino groups. Pee Wee City is based at Albany and School and is known for its Maniac Latin Disciple affiliation and its loyal street presence. The BC or FF set at Barry in California traces back to 1983 when the Kedzie and Berry maniac Latin disciple converted a local club called the Bryn Park Party People into a stronghold for the MLDs. The D Block set, centered around Rockwell and George and Diversey and Artesian, represents a dual presence of maniac Latin disciple and gangster disciples forces working cooperatively in the area. BS is located around Berthoud and Springfield in Independence Park. This block maintains various alliances and is known for mixed representation and violent incidents. CK is the Keystone and Cullom set of the Latin Kings that has been active in Albany Park since the 1990s. This block remains a critical part of the Latin King structure in the area. While gentrification, police crackdowns, and shifting demographics have reduced open-air gang activity in parts of Albany Park and Avondale, the undercurrent of violence and street politics remains. From notorious figures like Antonio Bucio and Jovan Jurjlov to federal takedowns like Operation Bullpen, these neighborhoods have witnessed both individual and organized criminal acts that shape their reputations. Today, though less visible, sets like the Latin Kings, Simon City Royals, and SGD still hold influence. The legacies of turf wars, retaliation deletions, and deep-seated rivalries continue to impact local youth and families, reminding Chicago that its gang problems are far from confined to the South and West Sides.